I'm deeply worried about the Bharatiya Janata Party. Welcome to all those who are interested in examining contemporary realities of significance from a purely objective and dispassionate perspective. When I say I'm concerned about the health and well-being of the Bharatiya Janata Party, its defenders would immediately retort saying, "Who are you to worry about our party? Our party does not need your sympathy, your support, or your concern. We are quite capable of minding our business. We are the strongest, largest, most affluent party in the world. Therefore, you keep your concerns to yourself. Don't come out in the open with your senile thoughts." I respect that sentiment, if at all that sentiment is there and is articulated. I'm saying that this is a likely reaction. It could be otherwise. But I'm concerned for a reason. I need to state the reason at the outset itself. The reason is this: whether it is the Congress or the BJP, what ultimately matters to me as a citizen of India is not a party or two parties or a plethora of parties, but the health and vitality of Indian democracy. And I ardently believe that no democracy will stay healthy and sensitive to the hopes and aspirations of the people if, when it comes to power, it is not confronted with an effective opposition. Today, the Congress and a handful of parties aligned to it constitute the opposition, and thank God through the 2024 election, something like a meaningful opposition has come into being that augurs well for the health of Indian democracy. I was always worried about the BJP school of creating India free of Congress, Congress Mukt Bharat, because I knew from the day this idea was introduced that this was a recipe for disaster, and it was a clarion call to degrade democracy into dictatorship. A democracy without effective opposition is de facto dictatorship, period. So whether it is the plight of the Congress, or in course of time, or before 2014 the plight of the BJP, India needs a strong, robust opposition. So when I see seeds of degeneration and downfall in any party, as a Democrat, I am concerned. I wish that the BJP remains in good health, and I am afraid that I am not very sure that it does. Hence, the concern that I am going to share with you through the rest of what I would say in this video. Why do I say that all is not well with the BJP? I have nothing to say about whether or not the NDA, the present government, will complete its term. As I said in a previous video, I sincerely hope it does, but that's not my concern. My concern is this: why was the BJP so completely out of touch with the ground realities? Who can deny that the BJP is shell-shocked about the election results from Uttar Pradesh, from Maharashtra, and even from, say, Karnataka? The BJP prides itself on the fact that it is a cadre-based party. A cadre-based party, by definition, has its ears to the ground. It knows the ground reality. Then why was it that that sense of realism was not reflected in its entire management of the 2024 elections? In particular, let's be specific so that the sharpness and the gravity of the issue I'm flagging here will be understood properly. When Sri Narendra Modi said that this time around the BJP as a party will will have at least 370 members of parliament, and NDA will have more than 400 seats in the parliament, a parliament of 543 members. Now that's a huge majority. When Mr. Modi said it, two things. One, didn't Sri Narendra Modi have the benefit of his secret services, his intelligence services, reporters, party men, cadre, that would give him some idea, an idea that came somewhere near the truth about the ground realities of the country. It seems from what has played out that he didn't have a clue. The question is, how come that he didn't have a clue? The reason is not far to seek. Since 2014, and increasingly, even as Narendra Modi's grip on power became more and more iron-fisted, he neglected the need to be mindful of keeping his finger on the pulse of the people, pulse of national realities. That's the problem with power. When power becomes absolute, it makes you deaf and blind. It gives you a false sense of sufficiency, and it even orients you towards self-deification. Now, for example, if Sri Narendra Modi is sincere in saying that he is not a person merely of biological birth, but is anointed and sent by God Himself on a divine mission, he has every right to believe so. I have no problem with that. But there is a consequence. The consequence is that the moment a man believes that his authority originates in a divine anointment and a divine mandate, he gets automatically and at once almost completely delinked from the people. In a democracy, the leader has to be mindful of the predicament, the plight of the people, because his authority comes from the people. As in his speeches, Sri Narendra Modi kept on saying, Janata Janardhan. How can you say Janata Janardhan and in the same breath say, I have come from God? Or make his sycophant like Sambit Patra say that the very Jagannath is a fan of Narendra Modi. So what happens then is that a leader, and I hope what I am saying is taken in the right spirit, of which there is no guarantee really, but I still have to say this. When this mindset is created, automatically the link is severed, the connection is cut between the leader and realities. And then the leader increasingly graduates into this delusion that whatever he wills will be the reality. In the first stage, the leader tries to harmonize his will with reality. In the second stage of presumed divinity, the leader assumes that his will is the reality. Now, if you will tolerate my introducing a theological thought, God's authority is absolute. What do we mean in practical terms by saying that God's authority is absolute? God's authority is absolute because what He wills is what happens. So, between God's willing and the world of reality, there is no disconnect. What is, that is the world of reality. What is what God wills. Whatever God wills immediately is. There is no disconnect. So, the moment Sri Narendra Modi got into this mindset of being divine, unfortunately, in a secular world, this danger began to operate. He got distance from the people, distance from the realities. Therefore, he came to the conclusion, or he thought that all he had to do to win the election is to say, "Is bar 400 par, is bar 400 par." And it suffices that he said it, and because he said it, that will be the case. That was the mindset, for what I can understand, as a person who is far away from Delhi, who merely listens to what is being said and tries to make sense of all that comes to me, reported by the media. Now, that's the first problem. The second problem is this, and that's where the plight of the party comes into it. Here, so far, I was talking about the plight of the individual called Narendra Modi. As far as the party is concerned, there was not a single voice within this mammoth party, the largest party, the party with the largest accredited membership in history. There was not a single person among the crores of BJP supporters, loyalists, well-wishers, who raised a note of caution. Instead, everybody from A to Z repeated the same chorus. Now, what does this mean? It means that a culture of responsible and honest dissent was crushed. That's a serious danger. In fact, the worst disservice a ruler can do to himself is to crush dissent. Why? Because when you crush dissent, you demonetize truth. So, whether Sri Narendra Modi did it intentionally or otherwise, the fact is that he not only demonetized the two denominations, 500 and 1000 rupee denomination notes, he also demonetized dissent. That has got serious consequences for him and his party. That's what needs to be understood. And I am disappointed to note that even after this calamitous consequence, there is no attempt to come to terms with it. Nobody is even mentioning this. That's why I thought I would risk everything and mention this. For the sake of BJP's own long-term good. It's not healthy for a party to reduce itself to an army of sycophants. There should have been one voice of dissent. I'm sure that if L.K. Advani had been allowed a say in the matter, he would have issued a note of caution. But he has been completely silenced. So, in the present spell of Modi's governance, and I wish him all the best, I wish that he would make a serious correction. I hope that he'll correct himself in this respect. Rather than suppress dissent, rather than criminalize criticism, he should welcome well-meaning, responsible, honest dissent and criticism, so that he retains his connection with ground realities and is able to factor the truth of the life of the people into his art of governance. Now, let me read out a sentence or two from an article by Bertrand Russell, which has a bearing on this theme. Fortunately, I managed to get hold of this and I thought I would read it out. Now, this is what Bertrand Russell writes in an essay titled Universities. He says, the Chinese Empire many centuries ago recognized the need of licensed criticism. Very interesting expression, no? Licensed criticism. I would say accredited criticism. I would prefer that expression, but Bertrand Russell uses the expression licensed criticism, and I don't have any problem with that. So, the Chinese Empire many centuries ago recognized the need of licensed criticism and therefore established a board of censors consisting of men with a reputation of learning and wisdom and endowed with the right to find fault with the emperor and his government. Now, this is very interesting. Today we are trying to compare ourselves with China, we want to outdo China, so on and so forth. But some of these things from Chinese history is of great value, and we'll do ourselves good if we pay heed to these things. So, what did the Chinese rulers do? In order to ensure that their governance was beneficial to human beings, And in order to ensure that the ruler did not go berserk, they created a board of censors. And the members of the board of censors were wise and experienced people, people of proven goodwill, good intentions, patriotism, commitment to truth, commitment to universal ideals and values. And they were endowed with the right to criticize the king. What a beautiful thought. What a beautiful thought. Today, instead, we'll create not a board of censors, but a board of sycophants, a board of flatterers, who would only repeat what the master says. Accredited board of his master's voices. And that was such a pathetic thing. You just think of what has happened, what we have witnessed. So Narendra Modi comes up with the idea, is bar 400 par, and from day to day, from morning till night, from one day to another, week after week, the same words are parroted. Is bar 400 par. Now that is the terrible state of the BJP. And the harm that this sycophantic culture, the culture that deliberately demonetizes truth, the culture that suppresses dissent, the culture that criminalizes thought and engagement with reality, the serious harm that this is going to mean for the party will be manifest only over a period of time. In history, everything takes time. Things that corrupt the soul of a party are not like deadly poison, like potassium cyanide. Someone swallows a pill of potassium cyanide, instantaneously he dies. Moral corruption is never like that. Moral corruption happens over a period of time. But after a point in time, it becomes irreversible. That's the reason why, as someone who loves the BJP, it's my duty to tell them, look, this is the danger sign. And unless and until you address this, and unless and until you cultivate at least the basic good sense that the Chinese had long time ago, create within yourself a think tank, empowered to think truthfully, freely. Let them not utter a word in public, but a group of people, an empowered group of people who would have the courage, sense of responsibility, personal integrity and patriotism, true patriotism, to tell the truth to the center of power. Why is this important? And on that I'll close. This is absolutely crucial today because of the utter and abject collapse of the media in this country. Now, in this context, I am reminded of the word used by General V.K. Singh about 10-12 years ago to denote the character of the Indian media. He called journalists prostitutes, press prostitutes. It's a very tragic thing. I am a votary to the importance of journalism. In fact, I remember writing an article for the Times of India years ago where my argument is that journalism worth its name is secular prophecy. Just as in olden days, there was this arrangement in which there were court prophets to tell the truth to the king. In Indian context, it was called court purohit, the court priest, whose function also was to tell the truth to the king. But over a period of time, in the history of the Jews, there was a court prophet. And you have a beautiful story in which the prophet in the court of King David, his name was Nathan the prophet, confronts the king with his ill doings. The king seduced the wife of Uriah the Hittite. He contrived the death of Uriah in order to take possession of this beautiful woman called Bathsheba, who is later turned into a beautiful immortal character by Hardy in one of his novels, Bathsheba Everdeen. Return of the Native is the novel if you're interested. Bathsheba. And he thought, he had done everything in secret and he was all right. But then comes the man, Prophet Nathan, and he tells the king a parable. And I will not go into the parable for want of time. And then through the parable, the prophet awakens the righteous indignation of the king. He says, who is that man who has done this wicked thing? I'll teach him a lesson. And then the prophet points a finger at the king and says, "You are the man. You are the one who has corrupted the land with your immoral act." That is what we need. That is what BJP needs. That's what the Congress needs. If you look back into the degradation, the decline of the Congress, this was precisely what was ailing the Congress. From the time of Indira Gandhi, congressmen became by and large professional opportunists, time servers and sycophants. They ruined the party. They ruined the party. The same thing is happening to the BJP, and that's why I am mustering the courage to tell my friends in BJP, this is the brink. Pull back from there. Become normal. Have the courage. Have the, shall I say, the substance of character. Have the backbone to stand criticism, to accept dissent. Do not think that by reducing the country to a realm of intellectual slaves, by capturing institutions of education, by ideologically steamrolling and destroy universities and destroying their intellectual academic autonomy, by planting third-rate party loyalists in positions of serious academic significance, you are doing any service to India. This is not patriotism, this is anti-national activity. You are destroying the future of India. By suppressing dissent, by reducing the margin for free thought, you are destroying the future of India, because a country progresses only when its subjects are allowed to grow to the full stature they are capable of. Show me one example from the last 2,000, 3,000 years of human history in which, in a society where freedom of thought was suppressed, innovation, inventiveness, originality became a reality to the benefit of the people and the progress of the land. Give me one instance. Whereas every instance we know in history proves that this attitude will only destroy the country, either short term or long term. The consequence is only disaster. So what has happened in the recent weeks, recent days, is a wake-up call. Is a rude wake-up call. And if this is not sufficient to wake up my friends in the BJP camp, then what will be? Thank you. Jai Hind. And if you want me, Jai Sri Ram. No problem. But Sri Ram as the embodiment of God's righteousness. Jai Sri Ram.